How's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are here for the All Blacks squad announcement for their upcoming Rugby Championship, and also a majority of these players will be making their way to France for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Now, next to me are the Rugby Championship fixtures. Their first game only 20 days away. The squad, I'm hoping it's going to be good. I'm interested to see what changes they do make compared to what they had last year. At the end of the day, they need some due to the injuries that have come for a lot of the All Blacks during the Pacific Rugby or Super Rugby Pacific competition. We have got Novmum in the chat, also Javelin, Josh, Damien McKenzie, Darren's here, also Benis, Dominus, and Pads Ablaze and Ryan. Hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you're all excited. And there could be a couple new names in this All Black squad. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do say. Ian Foster announcing the side at 7:30 p.m. New Zealand time. So we're currently about 28 minutes away. So in that time, we will still be able to go through, look at who we feel should be in the squad, talk about the players who might end up missing out. I know that a lot of people are saying some of those Blues boys after the Super Rugby Pacific one not too long ago may end up missing out just that little bit. But what we're going to do is we'll quickly go like this and like that. There we go. We're running moving. Let's go Cam Roygard. Here's a player that I am hoping to see make his way in here for the ABs. And hello all, says Jason. Aaron Smith says Striking Dragon. Rico, Wedding Myself says Far. And KFC McDonald's Touch Judge. And oh, did you see my photos in the Discord? Says Normo. I did see the one if it is the stadium one, if I'm not wrong, but it is going to be, of course, the Crusaders taking on the Chiefs for the Super Rugby Pacific Finals. So the players who do get selected for the All Blacks, there is still a chance that we see a couple of them get injured in the upcoming Super Rugby Pacific Final. But looking through their first game, it will be up against Argentina. That is a 7:10 a.m. game for us here in New Zealand on the 9th of July. Then the next game on the 15th of July, it's up against South Africa. It's in New Zealand, so the home field advantage to the ABs. Australia versus New Zealand for the Bledisloe Cup and Rugby Championship side of things, and then New Zealand versus Australia, the last game on August the 5th. Where can we stream the event? We don't have New Zealand Sky Sports, says Martin Jacobs. Unfortunately, there isn't really too many places that you will be able to watch the actual announcement per se, but as soon as they announce the squad, we're going to have the picture up on the screen. Pretty much everything at the moment is just pre-match build-up or pre-announcement build-up, I guess you could say, as they are only starting at 7:30, but that is when they are announcing their side. 36 players, says Josh, for how many are going to be selected. And Ottawa, Stevenson, Leicester, the back three, says Izzy Wynn. We'll tell you what, those guys have certainly put their names in the hat for being selected, because we have seen some very good play recently from Leicester Fainanuku, who is going to France. I saw earlier on someone actually mentioned about Jack Gutchu going to be heading off to France. He is indeed. He's decided, might as well go there. And that might be why, I know a lot of people are like Levi and Moore. Why is he signed for the Crusaders? They've got so many centres. Maybe that's why. Will the actual squad be announced at 7:30? Or it just be when it starts to select? If it is anything like it was last year, I believe what they did was they had about 1 minute build up, and then they were like, here's the squad that Ian Foster's gone with. And then they had their breakdown show like they normally would. So I would say 7:32 is when we are going to find out exactly who is in that side. If Shooter is not named, I'll be extremely annoyed, says Novmum. Then we can all agree Ireland aren't going further than the quarters, says Critical. Harsh, but without Johnny Sexton, who knows how it is going to end up going. Summer Penny Finau, he has been fantastic over the last few weeks. And the important thing for a lot of these players who aren't confirmed is you definitely have to have a good end to your season. The likes of the Highlanders players, it's been a long time since we've seen someone like a Billy Harmon in action, because the Highlanders got knocked out early. Whereas looking at someone like a Tom Christie, just for the similarity between the two, Tom Christie's still playing each and every week. So it does help. And with that little bit more momentum, even though it shouldn't affect it too much, it does deep down. And geez, all just saw Novman's photos called Corporate Box, says David the Mod there. And Ireland will probably knock us out in the quarter, says Josh. And Josh, Ireland not winning anything this World Cup. All about the Pacific, says Chris Seo. And I should mention, we have just seen the Samoan side announced the squad that they are going to be taking into their Pacific Nations Cup games, which are just around the corner. They'll be playing Fiji, they'll be playing Tonga, and they'll be having a whole heap of big hits throughout it. So now we do know this Fiji and the Samoan and the Tongan sides. And I mean, we saw a couple of Kiwis in that Samoan team. Probably the biggest standout was Stephen Luatua in the 4-pack and Lima Sopawanga in the back line now playing for the Samoans. And hey, bro, so the squad is named at 7:30. I believe so. If it's like what it was last year, as soon as it hits 7:30, the breakdown will start, and then normally about 1 minute in, they go straight into Ian Foster announcing the side. And backline, Aaron Smith, D-Mac at 10. Now, that is a big talking point. I actually had the poll for this live stream of who do you guys feel will be the All Blacks starting 10, and I'll be honest, it seems to juggle a little bit. Goes up and down. The World Cup decided by referees. I don't trust some referees, says Spider-Mink. I mean, a lot of people aren't that fond of Nick Berry. He's probably the one that comes to mind for a lot of people when it comes to whether or not, I mean, they trust the referee per se. We're going to quickly get the exact percentage of what we have got for the number 10 poll. But anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We will be covering every game the All Blacks play this year alongside previews, reviews. It seems like the poll never actually loaded, so we'll try and get one going now. Who is the starting 10? It is unfortunate that that poll disappeared before it got started. We will go with Barrett, of course, referring to Bowden. Just to clarify, we will go with Moonga. We will go with McKenzie. This is testing out my speed typing. And we will go with other. Hopefully that poll loads. Although YouTube polls weren't working earlier, now they are. We are good to go. Do let me know in that poll, ladies and gentlemen, who you feel is the starting number 10 for the All Blacks. Richie at 10 says Fan 101. D-Mac at 10 for Damian McKenzie. That makes sense. Has the team been announced yet? Not quite. 23 minutes time is when they will be announcing the team. And I was first vote. Yay, first vote, says Damian McKenzie. I want Ben O'Keefe for the Aussies versus AB, says Striking Dragon. And Papa Lee would be the only Blues forward worthy of selection, says DAB. I know a lot of people are fond of Ricky Riccatelli as well, and possibly will get his chance. What All Black won't make it in? Do you have a pick? For me, it's Finley Christie, one that comes to mind straight away. And that's because he just hasn't lit the world on fire this year. I feel like he is more concentrated on trying to talk to the ref than he is in getting into the breakdown and getting that ball out. And I think that was one thing that hurt the Blues a little bit in their game up against the Crusaders, was they just weren't recycling the ball quick enough. Scott Barrett says annoy. Is that Barrett to miss out or Barrett to get in? Because I feel like Scott Barrett's done pretty well throughout this season. And with the injury of Whitelock, with Tui Palotu out, it seems like there's going to be more of a chance that we will end up seeing Barrett in that 4-pack. And I actually mentioned that for me, out of the 3 Barretts, I'm ranking Scott the highest at the moment in terms of form. Because Bowden's been a little bit off. Geordie's been quite a bit off. So, yeah, I'm going. Scott Barrett, Mark Delia, and Papa Lee are the Blues who deserve a place. Says Bennis the Menace, and Riccatelli should make the XV. Not the main squad, says Laser Kiwi. It's that big question of who's going to be that third hooker. I think Taylor and Taukei'aho, I would like to think are pretty much confirmed. It's whether or not they do decide to go with Riccatelli, whether they go with maybe a young guy like Brodie McAllister. They've got Dane Coles, who's a bit more of a veteran. Asafa Moore. I'm just going through all the teams at the moment. Who else have we got? I missed the team. It was the Highlanders. I mean, I'm not even sure who they've got at number 2 at the moment. Ever since Ash Dixon went, my brain's gone blank. And we will lose position for playing France and stuff like D-Mac doing his 360 spins. He'll get smashed and it'll be Cole, says Laser Kiwi. And that is something that a lot of people feel is that Ian Foster will go with the more experienced, more, I guess, aged players for this World Cup. I think Dane Coles will miss out, says Kane. So it seems pretty even. At the moment, the poll is not even though. Richie Moonga leading the charge, 69. In fact, 70% of you have said that Richie Moonga is the starting number 10 for the ABs. Barrett got 10%. Damian McKenzie got 19%. So he is second choice at the moment. And then other got 1%. And I would assume that other, in this case, is maybe Stephen Perofeta as the other starting number 10, unless they want someone else completely. You know, you've got a few young guys. Ruben Love, I don't know whether he'll be starting just as of yet. Who else have we got number 10s other than those 3 that were listed? We've got the Blues covered. We've got the Crusaders, the Chiefs. And, yeah, the Hurricanes haven't really got anyone other than maybe Aidan Morgan. I don't think he will be the other option. And then Geordie will do nicely at 15 was doing nicely at 15 last year. Says far, and I thought Scott Robinson was the one naming the squad since he is the coach, says Luke. That is not quite correct. He's not quite the coach. He's going to be starting his coaching after the Rugby World Cup 2023. Hamish is currently sitting his exams. If he doesn't pick what Foster picks, he fails, says Stephen. Well, that's the thing. We've been told it's a 36-man squad, and we're hoping to guess a majority of the squad correctly. So while we're at it, we might as well start it off. I think it's a tricky one. We're going to try and say our guaranteed All Blacks, and we're going to have them going along the bottom of the screen. Now, guaranteed is a tough word because at the end of the day, there could be injuries behind the door that we haven't seen. Guarantee is also a very hard word to spell. But guaranteed ABs, we will start our list very soon with who you guys feel is definitely getting selected. And that will just tick across the bottom as we build towards the squad being announced. And also, hey, Hamish, I'm looking forward to the squad announcement. Welcome in the Rugby Opinion here. It is absolutely awesome to see you back, mate. And I hope you are very excited indeed for this one. New Year's Day in Auckland. It's in Australia, NRL, AFL, and A-League taking over, says Nate. And you'll be playing with the Northern Hemisphere, says Blues Nate. There, Will Jordan needs to be the fullback. And straight away, I mean, if we're looking at All Blacks in the back line, I think we've got Mo'unga confirmed already, unless there's some sort of injury. And I think they've got Will Jordan confirmed. We're going to go slowly throughout this, seeing as we have got a little bit of time. Sam Kane says Johnny there for a guarantee, and Savia. Of course, the loose board. It's the big question of who will be maybe that guy that people weren't expecting to be in there initially, because at this stage, I would say Kane and Papali'i, they have both got themselves in. But who else will they go with? Are we going to see a Peter Gus Soakula? Are we going to see maybe a Summer Penny Finau walk his way in? Jacobson could be an option at number 8. 10, Richie. 15, Damien. He's another player who I believe we're going to slowly add to the list. We're going to go Mackenzie. We're going to add Artie Savia, and I was going to go Sam Kane. Is he a guaranteed AB, though? That is the question. I don't know if I want to write him yet. We're just going to leave Savia because we know that Savia is going to be in there somewhere for the boys. And Kane is a guarantee, I think. He had a solid season, huge step up from his awful form the last few years. And I feel like he is an Ian Foster guy, or Foster is a Sam Kane guy, isn't he? And halfback equals Weber, says Moses. Cullen Grace, maybe. Sad thing about Cullen Grace is he has ended up, unfortunately, with another injury, which I'm sad about because I think if he was match fit, he could have had a really good chance of going through to the World Cup. And Kane is still solid, I reckon. Get Havili in. Is his injury going to keep him out, though, David Havili? That is the tricky part. We don't know how long some of these players are going to be out for. I've done it. I've added Sam Kane to our guaranteed ABs list. I feel like we're going to have a list of about 20 or so by the time the squad is announced. Samasoni Taukeiaho has to be in there. I agree. He has had a very good season so far throughout the Super Rugby Pacific. And also, I feel like, we're going to add him. We're going to go Taukeiaho. I feel happy that I can spell his name. And we're going to add Cody Taylor in there as well. I feel like he is another one that Ian Foster is pretty fond of. What's Havili's injury? I believe it was it knee or lower leg? It was somewhere in that lower leg region, though. I would have had Grace. I think he needed to be picked up last year to be in the World Cup combo. And, yeah, just to avoid a lot more injuries as the big one. I read online and it's confirmed Havili is not going to play this year for the ABs. So, yeah, losing Havili, losing Sevu Reece, Whitelock, I'm not completely sure of how long his injury is going to be. I don't think he's going to be back tomorrow for the Super Rugby, this weekend for Super Rugby Pacific's final. He ruptured his pec or something, and he says, Josh, who am I thinking of who's got the lower leg injury? Brody Retallick, he's guaranteed. Although Caleb Clark, I'm not so sure. I feel like Caleb Clark, he hasn't had that standout season that a lot of people were hoping to see him have. So I'm going to leave him off the guaranteed list just for now as we slowly build it. We've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at this stage. And I'm gonna put Scott Barrett on there as well. But I should mention we are going to have a guest for some of this build-up, ladies and gentlemen. He is, well, it's quite interesting. He's a Blues boy. So I am going to ask him the question of who is his guaranteed Blues players who make it into the World Cup squad. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tim from Rugby Itch. Hello, mate. You've got the AB's kit on and you've also got a thing over your face. There you go. Now we can see you.
How you doing?
I'm excited, mate. It seems like there is a lot of hype for this All Black squad and there is a lot of anticipation for what is going to be selected. So I'm going to ask you, your Blues boys, I don't want to bring it up too much, of course, because
100%.
wasn't ideal. But of the Blues player, who are your guaranteed ABs? I'm going to say, first of all, give me 3.
I mean, the first off the list has to be Reiko. I mean, he's definitely going to get in. I mean, he's the number one for a team without a doubt. I don't think there's anyone gonna kind of get him for that part. I mean, there's literally like, I mean, you can technically say Anton Brown, but like Reiko's had, in my opinion, a better season, and it's crazy to think because this isn't even his best season for the Blues. So it just shows you there's a level in terms of how well he's kind of solidified that position in terms of the 13 role. But again, if I had to say another player, I mean, it's tough because there's not a lot of Blues players you can kind of nail down in terms of the squad. I mean, like, I don't know why I'm thinking of him straight away, but I would say Offerton Fassi. I think he's someone.
Okay.
Because the thing is that you also have to think about the propping position where there's been a lot of injuries on that front, and I think Offerton Fassi is someone who I think has had a good season overall for the Blues, and I think he's very versatile because he can play both the loose head as well as tight head prop. So I think he's someone definitely who will get selected. So I think that's definitely the second name I would probably select on this list. But the third one, I mean, I think you have to go with Dalton Papali'i. I think that's kind of the other one, which is kind of the obvious, because he's just someone who's so reliable when it comes towards that loose forward pack. Because we've seen it time and time and again, like where he can play. You know, he's played the 7, of course. He's kind of really the backup towards Kane and kind of his, I guess, apprentice. To say the least for the future. But we've also seen him play at the 6 as well. So he's definitely someone who can cover 2 positions in terms of that loose forward pack. So if I had to say guaranteed, I would say those 3 actually in general are probably the guaranteed Blues I'd go with.
Alrighty, so I only wrote 2 because I couldn't spell Tuanga Fassi. Should have just put offer, shouldn't I?
Fair enough.
New Zealand has a problem at prop time, but De Groot is decent. Do you see Ethan De Groot going in? I can see De Groot.
100%. 100%. He definitely deserves to get in. I mean, I literally just made a video like talking about this, and I think it's one of those where Ethan De Groot, it's one of those where even though the Highlanders have had not the best of seasons, really, this is kind of the first time in a while where they've missed the playoffs. So it's definitely kind of a season to forget, really, from a Highlanders perspective. But in terms of Ethan De Groot's individual performances, I think he has really stepped up, actually, in terms of what he's been able to do, especially from a scrummaging position, by the way, because he's definitely improved on that front. Because if you actually look at the statistics, the Highlanders actually were pretty good in terms of the scrums throughout the whole year. So he's definitely a big part to play in that. So I definitely say Ethan De Groot has stepped up.
Okay, and I've also added Aaron Smith and Brad Weber to the AB's guarantees. Now, your boy Christie.
You're actually putting Brad. See, I think the whole scrum half thing is so. I think the scrum halves are just so wide open. I think Aaron Smith is the only one I would say is guaranteed at the moment. Look, maybe I'm being a bit biased on that front because I'm also thinking of Finley Christie in the back of my head. But at the same time, you have Brad Weber, Finley Christie, Cameron Royard, and you have Fla Fakatava as well, even if you want to mention him. I don't think he'll get selected. I don't really think he's part of the conversation, but he's still in the frame, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm picking him. I've put him there. I feel like that's the most risky one that we've got so far. I'm going to actually tell you what. We're going to mix it up as well. I'm going to put Tamaki Williams as a guaranteed AB.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, with the amount of injuries we've had in the propping department.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, the props, you can kind of tell who's going to get in already. And he can cover both positions as well. So.
And Harmon is the best tackler in New Zealand. We've got quite a few people saying Billy Harmon should get a possible chance here. I feel like he is a tackler machine. He doesn't get a chance to play in these last few weeks, of course, due to being in that Highlander side. But a lot of people compare Harmon and Christie. And that big question is who can get those turnovers in the breakdown alongside that?
I think it's Christie, 100%. I mean that's the reason why I wouldn't. Look, maybe I'm being harsh on Billy Harmon here, but I think when you have someone like Tom Christie, who is kind of what you are getting from Billy Harmon as well, but it's kind of a level above him, in my opinion. I think you probably go with Tom Christie on that front. But at the same time, do you think Billy Harmon or Tom Christie will get selected now? I don't think that's really going to happen because I think they're kind of going to. I think that's maybe kind of for the future. Maybe when Scott Robinson's in charge, because that's the decisions I think he'll kind of make, and I think he'll obviously go with his boy in terms of Tom Christie in that selection. But in terms of Ian Foster, I think it's too early to kind of put one of those 2 in. Maybe I'm wrong here, by the way, guys. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But I think. It's really tough because you have Papali'i as well as Sam Kane there already. And
Yeah, you've got your sevens, don't you? It's more of that question of, because for me, I think you'll kind of agree. Satutu has been under par this year for the Blues,
Yes. Yeah, he hasn't had
and
a lot of the Blues haven't had the same season as last year. So yeah.
which is why here we go. I'm getting to the stage of some of these guys are a little bit more 50-50, but I
Of
have
course,
added
yeah.
Luke Jacobson to
I
the
agree.
list.
I was about to say
I feel like he's had a
been nailed
sensational
down.
season.
Nailed down. If he doesn't get in, I'll be so surprised. Very surprised. Because he's actually one of the only loose forwards who can actually cover all three of the positions. So I think you have to have him in. But I did see this in a podcast recently. I forgot which one I was listening to. But the All Blacks have to also start to think, do you want more versatility in your squad? Or do you want someone who's just nailed down in that position? Like, do you want someone who just nails the position hands down, and they're only playing that one position, but just nails it completely? So there is a question in terms if you want a lot of versatility in your squad overall. I mean, it's a good debate because, again, I've always been in favor of versatility because I think that's something which every squad needs. But at the same time, if you have so many versatile players, it means that a lot of players will miss out, and so it kind of it's a very it can be very challenging to have that. So yeah.
Well, like you mentioned, with Sam Cane and Papali already sevens, and the fact that Jacobson can also cover seven, that then kind of does take away that opportunity maybe for a Harmon
Exactly.
or a
That's what I'm
Christie.
saying. Yeah.
I think the big question at the moment is that number 6 jersey for the ABs, because I've seen a lot of people mentioning the big problem is 6. Who are we going to have? Akiriwani, people feel he's not up to par. Shannon Frizzell, it's been a long time since we've seen him. In recent years, he has been the pick of the sixes for the AB, so I think he'll have a decent crack there, unless you go with, maybe you go Jacobson 6, Sam Cane 7, Savia 8.
Yeah,
is that a loose forward trio that they might end up going for, possibly? Or is someone like a Peter Gus Sowakula going to get the call up? They gave him one game last year. I don't know whether or not he's been consistent enough, unfortunately, to be able to get in there.
I feel so bad for Peter Gus because he was brilliant last year and he deserved the selection. But at the same time, what the All Blacks have done now makes it so, like, they've now sucked him in terms of, like, being considered as an All Black player now and can't represent, I believe, Fiji, which was kind of the other nation that was kind of eyeing him. And because he's now part of kind of the All Blacks frame in terms of who may get selected, I feel bad for him because I wouldn't go with him actually in this selection, which it feels really devastating to say that because it means that he kind of may miss out maybe on future selections as well because of this. So it is really tough. And I mean, I didn't mention before, by the way, that Papali can play 6. So that's another player who can also play there if you need to. But I mean, you do have Scott Barrett, who, I mean, they generally like playing Barrett at 6 as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they only choose 1 6 actually, and just consider Barrett as kind of like the cover 6. If that makes sense. So,
although you've got another option in those locks, which is maybe adding Tom Robinson in, can cover lock, and also has that blindside flanker role under his belt. Bit of a workhorse, old Big Red. The fact that you went and you're a Blues supporter tells me everything I needed to know.
I'm going to give you guys the truth. Tom Robinson, I don't think he deserved to make the All Blacks. I think once in his career, I think it was from last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think like last year was the year because again, a lot of the Blues players really stood out. I think that was the year where I think Tom Robinson really did pretty well, and I think he was in kind of the frame in terms of the All Black setup, and maybe if he can make that step up. But I think this year he hasn't been on the same level. And I think, again, you could probably just go with the same thing as Scott Barrett and put Tupavala if you wanted to at the 6. So, again, I think there's a lot of cover anyway on that position. So I wouldn't be – I think the 6 is actually pretty comfortable, actually. But, again, it comes down towards what you said. Do you go with Akira or do you go with Shannon Frizzell? I think that's the big call because I only think one of them get in.
Do you go with Devin Flanders? I'm starting to see his name popping up a little bit more. The Hurricanes number 6.
Yeah,
he's had a very good season, and he has got that.
Impressive.
He's got that physicality. I feel that could end up actually edging him a little bit more, due to like the way that they're going to have to play in this World Cup. Like they're going to be up against some brilliant fullbacks, whether that is the big physical French or whether that's going to be the South Africa or Ireland in the quarterfinals. Yeah. I think Ardie Savia.
I like Finau as well, by the way, from the Chiefs. Like he's someone who
Penny Finau.
He's someone who I believe, like, if you want to choose a bolter in terms of the sixth position, he's the guy I would kind of put forward in that
Yeah,
sense. But
I agree. I feel like if they had to pick between Finau and Robinson, because Finau can also play in the locking duo, which
yeah,
is
exactly,
beneficial because the All
exactly.
Blacks, they've had Whitelock, Tui Pelotu, Sam Derry. If he was going to have any sort of chance, he's now gone with the
I don't
injury
think
as
he would get
well.
into this one. Yeah.
So they've got about
Again, a
4
lot
or
of these
5.
players we're mentioning now, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to get into this squad or even the Rugby Championship squad or the World Cup. I think it's really going to happen after, because that's really where the new, I guess, the new era, you can say, of the All Blacks comes in, obviously with Scott Robinson in charge. And I think a lot of guys who haven't been selected are now going to get selected. And we're going to see a complete switch, because obviously a lot of the old guns are obviously going to be, kind of heading off their way, over shores, of course, or either into retirement. So it's going to be one of those where, yeah, I can see a big change, obviously, after the World Cup. But for now, I think you have to stick with the guys that Ian Foster selected in the past. So I think it's going to come down towards experience, but as well as who's been in the, I guess, the All Black environment recently.
Well, we are only 3 minutes away from that
Oh my
announcement
God.
on the breakdown, so it is going to be very exciting. It's on Sky Sport 1 for anyone who is wondering here in New Zealand. So I'm hoping that they do it right at the start of the show rather than waiting until the end. I believe they are going to be doing it quickly, though.
I think they do it like 10 minutes. It's like 10 to 15 minutes where they do a bit of a pre-build-up, I think, and then they obviously announce it, because that's what happened kind of last year. But,
Jordan said about Hugh Renton for the Highlanders. He's a very decent option. And I feel like it's just that he's always overlooked, I think.
He's a very overlooked player. Yes, I will admit that. Yeah.
I would say it's not to do with the fact that he looks like a randomly generated, like when you put yourself to like a default setting in a rugby game. I feel like he's he's just a stock standard hard man, isn't he? And some people overlook that because they go, look at Akira Ioane, he's got bright blonde hair. But for Hugh Renton, he doesn't need those other attributes to try and stand out, because normally the rugby on the field for the big man speaks for itself. Mark Delia says, Javelin, yep, I did add him to the guarantee list. I also put Whaiana Nuku because I believe he's still willing to play before heading away to France for this rugby championship.
You got to select him.
And I love Peter Seftotoy.
I was about to say, by the way, what if Hugh Renton had a hair transplant? Would that make him a bit more likely to get into the setup?
No, I don't think he would. I think he'd just well and truly hate it. He'd probably rip it off by the end of the game with the amount of breakdowns he ends up joining in on. Artie Savi at fullback says Big D. Well, at the moment, we've only got one guaranteed Barrett, and that is Scott Barrett. Roger Torvasashek says Polo, although he has already said he wants to go back to the rugby league.
Yeah.
So I don't think the All Blacks, even though they're having a little bit of a crisis in that midfield, are going to be selecting. You know what? We're going to go with another little bit of a bolter, but a player who I feel has definitely earned it after the season that he has had. He didn't have the greatest season last year, wasn't quite able to step up to that international level, but now I feel like maybe that little bit more experience under his belt could be relatively handy, and that will be Braden Ennor in that midfield.
I agree. He's someone who I really do think could now get into the All Black setup, because I mean, we just saw recently, I think it was like literally announced yesterday, like Jack Goodhue is going to head off to France after the World Cup. That's another player now leaving kind of the All Black setup in terms of, I guess, the old guard in terms of what we saw in the past. So it kind of leaves an opening now. And I think Brandon Ennor has always been kind of I've said it a lot already, but kind of his apprentice essentially in terms of the Crusaders camp. But now going into the All Blacks camp, I think he can take that place. So I do agree with that.
Ryan has said any live stream of this in Australia. I don't believe the breakdown. They'll have it on YouTube, but they normally upload it maybe about 2 or 3 days after with the breakdown.
That's what I'm trying to say. So I won't even be able to watch this live. That's the.
You're trusting me.
I can't even watch it, because I think the way I'm going to do this is like probably just go on, because there's an article, The Stuff, which I think they're just doing like a live, like kind of like detailed thing of the report. So as soon as that comes out, I'll just like have my list of players, and I'll just post my reaction obviously on my channel, so that'll be good.
Yeah, but I should mention that you won't need to watch the full announcement to be able to know who's in the squad. Normally they announce it and they show everyone who's been put into that squad straight away. So then from there we will be putting it up on the screen so you guys can see exactly who is making it into the All Blacks. I mentioned about their games. They aren't too far away, 20 days from taking on Los Pumas. And that is going to be in Argentina, which will be an absolutely awesome affair. I should mention before that the under-20 side will be taking part in the under-20s World Cup. And you wonder whether or not, if injuries do end up happening, whether we get to see a similar scenario as what we saw, a little bit of an off example, but for the Fijian draw, how one of the under-20 Fijian representatives got promoted to then fill in that gap. Maybe we get to see one of these young guys. I know for the Aussies, the likes of a Tom Liner or someone like that, perhaps if there's an injury, might end up getting himself up there. And Jack Goodhue makes the squad, I reckon, says Laser Kiwi. The only thing that is possibly stopping him is the fact that he's just back from his injury. But he could be a very good option as the number 12. Yeah. Definitely with David Havili not being available. Any guys from under-20s going to get in the ABs? I don't think they will as of yet, mainly because they have got their own World Cup just around the corner and they wouldn't want to take them away from that. That would be a big decision as a young player, wouldn't it? Do you go into the AB squad as like a training representative, or do you stick with your starting spot?
I think you go to the starting spot. I don't think you kind of take that chance opportunity away because you may not have that. You're not going to have that in the past, in the future, really. So I think you definitely stick with that. But you do also have to remember that there's also going to be the All Blacks XV squad that will be announced as well, and that's where
it's normally tomorrow, isn't it? They announce that one.
Yeah, but I think that's where your pool of players really you make it.
There's a lady reading out something in my eardrums. I think she's about to announce the side, ladies and gentlemen. Are you taking the live feed? We won't have the live feed, but I'll be telling you exactly what she is saying. Although not this part because I'm not that great in Māori. She is delighted to announce the squad. Here she comes. What's she going to say? Oh, all the sponsors, first of all. In alphabetical order. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I will read them out. Odin Barrett. There you go.
Expected.
Geordie Barrett. I'm seeing a trend. Scott Barrett. We've got the third Barrett there. Sam Kane. The All Blacks captain, they just said as well. So he is going to be keeping that captaincy. Finley Christie makes his way into the side. As well as Caleb Clark.
No, he made it.
Dane Coles.
Yep.
They're going with the old school by the sounds of it for some of them.
Wow.
Ethan de Groot.
Yep, expected.
Braden Enor has made his way in.
Oh, he got in. Come on.
And Lester Fainanuku has also been announced summer penny female for the Chiefs.
He got in.
At number 6.
God.
Shannon Frizzell. He's also going to be there.
Expected that.
Rico Ioane, no Akira Ioane in the side.
Expected.
Luke Jacobson gets himself in there. Will Jordan.
Yep.
Nepo Lolala. That's about our first tight head prop, I believe. Anton Leonard-Brown.
Yep.
Tyrell Lomax, he had to be in there. He's probably a little bit of an underrated one. Yeah. Josh Lord, the young lock, he's going to be there.
Ooh,
Damian McKenzie.
That's a big call.
Dallas McLeod for the Crusaders. That's a bit of a bolter run.
I actually did say I did say he may get in. Oh my god.
And Moni Narawa for the Chiefs.
Good.
There was a gasp.
He deserves that.
Fletcher Null.
Really? Wow.
Dalton Papali'i.
I thought he may be injured, but okay.
Brody Retallick, Big Brody. Guzzler's going to be in there definitely after that last-minute try. Cameron Roygard. That means Weber's possibly missing out unless they've got 4 halfbacks.
I told you. You should have been saying
Adi Savia has been selected as well.
Yeah.
Aaron Smith. Noah Moore. Yep, he is missing out. Samasoni Tokiaho.
Expected,
Which means Cody Taylor is now being announced as the next man. Mark Talia, he has made his way in. After the season, he had to be in there. I'm still waiting. Ofa Tuangafasi.
Yep.
I've realised Sean Stevenson's missed out. Tupavai. Sam Whitelock. So he will be back from his injury in time.
No.
Tamaiti Williams has made his way in.
What? Whoa.
Wait a minute. Sean Stevenson has been selected as injury cover, which means he's not necessarily in there, but he'll still possibly with the team. The only thing that does is possibly take away that man's chance of getting in the World 15. Oh, sorry, the New Zealand 15.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's a bit rough, isn't it?
No. I think what will happen is that he may get selected for that team, but he'll be technically seen as an injury cover for this team. Is that the squad done, by the way?
That is the squad. That is a 36-man squad. So I guess the big ones to take out of that is there was no Brad Weber.
I said that would happen.
Who else missed out? I mean, Stevenson kind of missed out, but didn't quite.
No,
Dallas McLeod getting him.
He missed
was
out because he should be in the lineup.
And no Goodhue.
Yeah, no Goodhue.
No Akira Ioane. No Hoskins Satutu as well.
So I mean, you recognize that.
They didn't help themselves, did they?
They actually didn't go with Hoskins.
That is because, I mean, the most recent performances, plus earlier on Satutu, I guess he hasn't really found that form. Richie Mo'unga is in there. No Stephen Petafeta, though. He will more than likely be in the AB's 15 side, just around the corner. So we will have the picture up very, very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, to let you know exactly who has made their way into the squad. There we go. We've got it here. We'll go like this.
Now.
And we'll grab that. Hopefully this loads nice and quickly, and we'll get that right up on the middle of the screen for you guys to be able to see. 3, 2, 1. There's your All Blacks squad for the Rugby Championship. So Sean Stevenson's injury cover only for Mark Talia.
For Mark Talia? Wait, what?
Mark Talia must have some sort of little injury, perhaps.
Oh, no, he did. He did have an injury. Because he picked it up against the Crusaders in the last game.
So he's injury cover for one player. If Mark Talia's fine, Stevenson misses out.
Wow.
But interestingly enough, about 4 or 5 new names, in fact. You've got the new name of Tamaiti Williams. You've got Samapeni Finau, who after the season that he's had does deserve that spot in the side, I would have to say. And Moni Narua, it does equal 36, doesn't it? Cam Roigard, and then also Dallas McLeod. I think Dallas McLeod was probably one of the more surprising choices, but he can play in the centres. Maybe that is their number 12 that they might end up going with occasionally, unless they want him on the right wing where he has been covering for Sevu Reece so far throughout the Super Rugby Pacific season.
I am in shock, by the way, because Dallas McLeod has had a brilliant season, by the way. I actually said he was I did a video in the past, I was saying he was like the bolters in terms of has had a brilliant season. He was in it. But he was definitely in the All Black frame, by the way. But I didn't actually think he would get selected. So that's a massive achievement for him, by the way. But I can't believe Nawala is in and Stevenson isn't. Because both of them have had brilliant seasons. But you could technically say Stevenson has had a better season than Nawala. But I guess because of the positions that are the players who've been taken in those positions, I mean, you can maybe even make the point that Beauden Barrett has stopped Stevenson from getting in. Which is, I mean...
Okay. I mean, it's interesting as well with that loose forward trio. I feel like that was where we saw the most men going in and out, didn't we?
Exactly.
Because you've seen no Akira Ioane, no Hoskins Tutu. Of those Blues boys, only actually Dalton Papali'i getting through. They've gone with Savia. They've gone with Jacobson. They've got Sam Cane, Shannon Frizzell, and Samapeni Finau. There's those options, alongside maybe Scott Barrett and Tupavai.
That's what you can do. Yeah.
They seem like they're walking wounded a little bit with Sam White like that. I assume he's going to be back in time, but maybe it's a long-term thing. Other than that, though, you've only got your 3 locks with Retallick, Lord, and Scott Barrett. Alongside, you've got Vi as well, don't you?
Sam White will be available for the first test. That's 100% confirmed now.
And Stevenson should be in, says Cheryl. Yeah, I feel like not giving that man a proper, spot in the squad.
I don't get how Caleb Clark is in there. Look, guys, you have to remember, I'm a Blues fan here, so I'm just speaking the truth here from an honest perspective. I do believe Stevenson should be in ahead of Clark, because I think at the same time, when you look at the winger positions, in terms of you have to remember that I'm thinking about versatility in that sense. Lester Fananku is, in my opinion, going to be a starting. You can have him as the starting 11. And then you'll probably have Mark Talea, Will Jordan. You probably have Will Jordan. I'd probably say as the starting 14. And then you'll probably have Beauden Barrett or McKenzie as your 15, right? That's kind of what they'll probably go with. That's kind of what the All Blacks will go with. But in terms of the cover for those positions, you have probably Caleb Clark, who covers the 11. You have Narwala, who kind of covers the 14. Mark Talea can play both positions, the 11 or the 14. And then in terms of the 15, you really only have Beauden Barrett and then McKenzie. But then I guess you also have Jordy Barrett, and then if you have to, you can put Will Jordan there. So I think because there's so many players you can go in that 15, it kind of makes it less likely, I guess, for Sean Stevenson. For Sean Stevenson. So the more I think about it, I guess it makes more sense. But I mean, even Dallas McLeod, by the way, like you said, he can obviously cover that 14 as well. But then, so let me just make clear this. So they've gone with Jordy Barrett,
I mean,
Antonio Brown,
something I'm seeing
and
straight away
Max Glow.
is, are they going to have Sean Stevenson as the new Stephen Petafeta? Finally give him a debut, give him 2 minutes at the end of the game and say, try and change this one for us? Or are they actually going to give him a fair crack? Because someone mentioned the NRL has been calling a little while for Sean Stevenson. And is that going to be an option for the man? Maybe taking on different format on the RTE?
Look, I'm actually not surprised, by the way, now the more I think about it with Stevenson, because I'm also relating it back towards previous players who were in the best form of their life, but the All Blacks didn't pick them. Like we had in the past, you had like Ben Lamb in the past with the Hurricanes. You had like Lachlan Boucher for the Chiefs. I mean, you had there's another player. Liam Mape, of course, for the Hurricanes. Like there's been players in the past within Super Rugby who have been, you could technically say, the best player in terms of form in the competition, but they haven't gone with that player because from a position standpoint, it doesn't make like it doesn't. You have players who can kind of cover them in that sense. So it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating to see that the All Blacks have kind of adapted that approach once more, have not gone with Sean Stevenson in this sense, which is oh my gosh.
Well, I have some news for you, Tim. And that is that over half of these players who have been selected have got a Super Rugby Pacific final just around the corner.
Exactly. Yeah.
So of those 18 players, are they all going to end up walking away without any injuries, or are we going to see players maybe losing their spot due to those injuries and having new names coming in? The All Blacks 15 could end up being a massive feeding system into this AB's team, and Tamaiti Williams, Summer Petty Finau, Cam Roigard, Dallas McLeod, and Amoni Narua had 5 new caps. Says Kwasi, they are indeed. And I feel like for Roigard, I'm extremely happy for him. I still find it, I know that this is going to sound like you said that you felt it was going to be the case, but I still feel like Weber is very unlucky here, because what does a man have to do to get an AB's kit over a player who I feel has gone a lot worse than them in Finley Christie?
No, but you also have to remember, in terms of the All Black position, in terms of the scrum halves in particular, you have 5 to go with, and with Aaron Smith obviously being kind of like the last, kind of like the last standing man in terms of that kind of like the old era, like the old era of the All Blacks, really, because he's really the only player. Am I wrong in saying, because he was part of the 2015 squad, hands down, right?
I believe so.
He was the scrum half for that final, right? Yeah, so
was he? I'm thinking, was he the one? No, he wasn't quite.
No, he wasn't part of the 11 squad. No way. So that's when what was it? Knowledge here. Perry Ripu was the scrum half for that one, and he was brilliant on that one, by the way. But no, for the scrum half for this one, you have 5 that you have to go with. You have Brad Weber, Finley Christie, you have Aaron Smith, Finley Christie, and Fla Fakatava. As already said, Aaron Smith was hands down going to selected, as this will be his last World Cup, as well as his last World Rugby Championship. But then it comes down towards really Finley Christie and I believe Brad Weber. That's really the key decision, in my opinion, because I think you're always going to go with Cameron Roigard, because you're going to test him out, I'd say, within this Rugby Championship. But then what I do expect, by the way, and this is what I have always predicted, by the way, guys, I don't believe Cameron Roigard will get selected for the World Cup. I think they'll bring back Brad Weber for the World Cup squad. I think that's the way it's going to work. I think they'll go with Cameron Roigard now because they want to test him, but they're not going to select him for the World Cup. Unless he does something unbelievable in this Rugby Championship where you're like, oh, we can't turn down, we can't turn him, like kind of like just pass him off. Then I think they will actually bring back Brad Weber. I think that's the call they're going to do, because you do have to remember that they're going to do this with a lot of players, because even though the squad is very different now in terms of what we saw in the previous selection, it's going to actually be very different in the next one for the World Cup squad, because there's a lot of injured players now who, in my opinion, will just slot in straight away, not just in terms of the selection, but also into the starting 15. So it's going to be very interesting. But look, I'm going to have to go. Sorry, guys, because I'm going to actually make my video just right now, kind of just to react towards this towards this kind of selection. So if you guys can do me a massive favor and just definitely come over to the channel, just react towards that video, because I would greatly appreciate that. And I am actually going to do a 2-part video. I'll be doing a selection video, and I'll give you guys straight away my starting 15 for the All Blacks for the Rugby Championship. So I would greatly appreciate it, guys, if you can jump over to the channel straight after this, obviously live reaction, and obviously check out the videos. But look, guys, I will leave you guys to the Kiwi lads. He'll be able to give you guys his knowledge in terms of what he thinks about the squad. But look, guys, I'll see you guys, and yeah, just hope you guys have a good day.
See you later, Tim.
Yeah, see you guys.
One moment. We'll go like this and like that, and hopefully, no, I'm still kind of hidden. I have to go off to the side. That's the Crusaders Chiefs final. The reason I brought that up earlier on is because there could be injuries that we see relatively soon, depending on how that matchup goes. You think TJ Perenara will make the World Cup squad? No, mainly because he hasn't really put his name in the hat for going there. And I think he's already mentioned that the most that he wants to do is play for the Māori All Blacks at the moment in his career. He hasn't really been playing too much for the Hurricanes due to injury. So even though he's had that past experience, I don't think he's going to go ahead of one of these guys who have been playing throughout the whole year. And stuff mounts up. Mackenzie says Cooper there, this is a World Cup, and we send oldie, says Spider-Mick. Although there was always going to be a few of those older players making their way into the squad. Dane Coles was maybe a little bit of a surprise, mainly because, I mean, although when you really think about it, who would be the hooker that you would take rather than Dane Coles in this squad? I know some people would say Ricky Riccatelli. Maybe some would say Asafa Amua. But I don't know. I feel like Foster's very much if you've been in his squad before, you're still in his squad till he gets kicked out the door. And that is the case for Dane Coles. Did that almost rhyme? Maybe. Arabia debuts the joke of the year. Aussie winning nothing, says Chris CEO. And then Hamish Roygaard made the squad. I'm very happy about Roygaard getting in there. And I just hope that they don't do what Tim said just before, which was drop him for the World Cup so they can put Weber in instead. I want to see Weber in, but I believe that would be rather than Finley Christie. At this stage, Caleb Clark, majorly overrated, says Xavier. Yeah, very lucky, some would say, to get into the squad. I know that because he's been in Foster's squad before. Maybe he has an idea for him out on that left wing. Maybe even coming off the bench. Your thoughts on Satutu missing out? I feel like this season hasn't been his best, unfortunately. When do they announce the AB's 15? They actually will announce it, I believe, tomorrow. Or in a couple days' time, they actually announce it. I think last time it was about on a Tuesday or somewhere around there that they did announce that team. But yeah, we will be definitely keeping you guys updated on what happens for that one. And what I should mention is straight after this video, we will actually, or straight after this live stream, we'll have a video coming out where we do go through the players who were selected, just a little bit of a shorter video than the 40 minutes that this one has ended up being. And Satutu has no tight game, says Rugby debuts, and it's just shown that the Blues lose forwards. Other than Papali'i, no one's really made their way through. I'm tired of this, really. It's a joke, says Moses, for the selections, and Sean Stevenson can feel ripped off. So is the New Zealand public. Yeah, he's unlucky. Like, to be put there as a little sub-header saying, oh, he might get into the squad if Talia gets injured. Just a bit rough, isn't it? At the end of the day, the man's had a sensational season. He's a Waikato boy as well. I would have thought Foster would have loved to have him in his AB's team. And Weber seems to be suffering from concussion symptoms, says Clyde. He had that a little while ago, didn't he, Brad Weber? I'd like to think the reason he was missed out was maybe because of some injury, just because he has been in some pretty good form for the Chiefs, and happy for Finau, Narawal, Roygaard, and Williams, says Sweet Ass. Yeah, a few new names in there. We're going to get to see them in action for the Rugby Championship. That'll be taking place in 20 days' time between the All Blacks and Argentina. But I do thank you all very much for tuning into this live stream. It is hugely appreciated, you guys all being here. Anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Like I mentioned, we're going to have a video coming out very soon, which has the squad. We break down who got selected, who missed out, and everything along those lines. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Like I mentioned, who knows, maybe we could do some more of these squad announcement videos in the future as well. But thank you all very much for tuning in. We've got a live stream in 2 hours' time for the Ashes, I should mention. So if you like a bit of cricket or you want to talk the AB squad on that live stream, be sure to check it out as well. But we'll see you all for the next one.